Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 Things That We Learned from Grimsby Town 1, Bradford City 1. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try to 80 likes on today's video, that'd massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're now on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below on our 6 talking points that we do go on to discuss in today's video. I am once again joined by Korban, and yesterday was a pretty frustrating, sort of scrappy game. Not a real lot of quality in there, if I'm honest with you. We managed to rescue a point in the last minute. Go check out my match reaction if you haven't already. But we'll start out then with box number 1. It's a yellow box for Bobby Poynton. He's a man who gets talked about so much, and for me personally, I thought he struggled in the game, and you know that's the reason why I've gone with a yellow box. I don't think he had a bad game. It's not like he gave the ball away loads. He wasn't at fault for the goal. I just don't think he influenced it as well as what we know he can do. I think he got marked out of the game for the large part by Thompson, their holding midfielder, I think it was, who had a really, really good game. And Poynton, like I said, I thought he struggled to create chances. He wasn't really... I felt like it kind of happened a bit in the first half against Tranmere, where we looked a bit disjointed, and then against Grimsby we looked massively disjointed between our defence into the midfield and then midfield into the attack. We weren't really linking up, and in the second half against Tranmere we had some really nice link-up play with the likes of Poynton, Walker, Smith and Kavanagh, and at times we were just kind of lacking that in product. Obviously Poynton scores an absolute worlder against Tranmere and was rightfully rewarded with another start in this one against Grimsby, and then he got subbed off after about an hour 65 minutes, and a lot of the fans were complaining about that, and I don't think you could have really too many complaints. I think Clark Adore came on for him, and Adore I thought had a really good impact on the game. We're not going to speak about him in today's video, but I do think he had a good cameo on off the bench. And Alexander spoke about Poynton being more consistent, and he had to produce like that week in, week out, and unfortunately he didn't in this one. I don't think he had a bad game, he just didn't really have that desired impact on the game, and I hope it's now not a case of where we're not going to see him for the remainder of the season just because he's had one game where for the large part he wasn't bad, he just didn't really create much and wasn't really involved in it. You know, he had a decent shot. I remember in the second half, the ball just fell to him on the edge of the box. He killed it looking for the top corner, and unfortunately for our sake, it went just wide. But apart from that, not really a lot in the game. Some of his flicks and stuff weren't really coming off. He worked hard, but unfortunately just didn't quite have the desired impact on the game, what we like to see from our players in them sort of positions. So that's why I've gone with the yellow box for Bobby Poynton.
Yeah, but wingers are inconsistent at the worst of times, and obviously when he's a young lad coming through as well, that's only going to add to that. Like you say, we marked out the game and didn't have a lot to do, and it's a shame. But after Friday, such a good performance, getting the ball down, mixing the play up, and with those front three linking up really well, it's a shame, but we couldn't continue in that way, and instead we're just playing hoofball to him. It's a player's limited when it's like that, and Poynton definitely was. We didn't get the best out of him at all, and in parts I just feel sorry for him and a lot of those forward players, apart from Tyler Smith, but they just couldn't get into the game. And I think you said after the game on Friday, you know, about the 2-8s, and I think we've got to go for it more in games, you know, instead of being more pragmatic in the way that we set up. You know, we need to go for it now, and especially with Poynton, like you say, he needs to play into form, and it'd be unfair to drop him, I think, especially with the young lads. We need to build for next season, and he didn't have a good game, but he's been one of the only people who can get the fans on side this season. And yeah, you know, he had an average game, but still he's got that bit of magic in him that he can just produce some out and out.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. We'll move on then to our second box of today's video. It's another red box for Tyler Smith. He had another really, really poor game, and not only did he miss chances because of the main chance that he missed in that first half, you know, the header, that is the reason why I was frustrated with him. It's a free header, brilliant work from Callum Kavanagh, works really hard to win the ball back, takes a great cross into the box. It's on a plate for Tyler Smith, completely unmarked, about 8 yards out, and his header is straight at the goalkeeper. I know it's not traditionally his game heading the ball, he doesn't really get to do it much because he's about 5'5", but he simply has to find the corner. You cannot head a chance that good straight at the goalkeeper. It was a really, really disappointing finish. But the thing that frustrated me the most is the Grimsby goal. It is, for the large part, down to him. The corner comes into the box. It's cleared away at the front post. It's not a particularly great clearance, and Tyler Smith just completely switches off. The man on the edge of the box is Smith's to pick up. He's not going to impact much in terms of the first phase of the set play because of his height. But when the ball comes out to the edge of the box, he has to be alert. He has to be alive to it, and he's simply not. He completely falls asleep and then and by the time he's reacted, the ball is already found the back of the net. Could Sam Walker maybe do better? I don't think so, because it looks like it does take a slight deflection. It takes it from going in around the middle area of the goal right into the top corner, and Walker can't really do much. But Smith's link-up play, it's not bad. Like I say, I do feel a little bit sorry for him because of the football we tried to play against Tranmere. It was a lot more on the floor, and the build-up play was nice. Tyler Smith just couldn't convert his chances. But then in this one, it was more hoofball up to him, and Kavanagh did all right at winning some of the flick-ons. We'll speak about him later on in today's video. But Tyler Smith, it just doesn't really suit him. And then when he gets in them areas where he's getting the opportunities and the chances, he's not finishing them. And the quicker Andy Cook comes back fit and available, the better. You know, you look at a young Edmondson in the academy. Would he really be much worse than Tyler Smith? Obviously, Matt Derbyshire's not going to be a player next season. Tyler Smith, for the large part, I don't think many Bradford fans would be disappointed if he was moved on in the summer, because he's so wasteful in front of goal. And if that header goes in the first half, again, it's a completely different game. And you might look at that, we scrape a last-minute penalty and you come away with the 3 points and you're feeling a little bit more positive. Back-to-back wins after a disappointing couple of results. But Smith misses a big chance, and then he is largely at fault for the goal we conceded. So that's why I've gone with the red box for him.
There's not much more to say about Tyler Smith that's already been said about him. He's just bad. You know, he's just had another poor game, and he'll continue to have poor games. I don't understand. You know, after a game on Friday, people saying he's unlucky. He's just terrible. He's wasteful and doesn't offer much at all. He's just shocking. But I will just throw some out there for you. Everyone were going sort of, if you throw on goal in it's at Wembley, who would you rather have running through? Curtis Guthrie, Theo Robinson, or Tyler Smith? Who would you go with out of them lot?
I mean, it's not a particularly great selection. I would probably go Theo Robinson. I mean, obviously, we're talking about them in their Bradford City days, I assume, not right now, because Robinson is pushing 40 and Curtis Guthrie, he's even still playing football these days. But yeah, Guthrie, I don't think would have the legs. He'd probably fall over his own feet potentially. Tyler Smith would probably get into the right position. To be fair, if it's quite a hard chance to score, you probably back Tyler Smith to score it. You know, if he's having to run from 60 yards and stick it in the top corner, he'd probably do that. But if it's an easy chance from 4 yards out, he probably wouldn't score. Robinson, we've seen him convert them sort of chances. I remember Exeter at home in the FA Cup, similar sort of chance to the one you've described there. But yeah, all three of them are not particularly great, are they?
No, not at all. I think Guthrie's at Livingston now. I think he managed to get onto the pitch against Celtic, so God knows how he's managed to fluke that. And Robinson's probably signed McDonald's like he was when he was at City. But yeah, I don't understand why you wouldn't just throw Ibbotson in and give him a chance and see what he's got. I think you can say that about a lot of our young players at the minute. Just see what they've got now to end of the season, try and build a pathway for them.
Yeah, I mean, I do actually kind of hope Ibbotson gets an opportunity. If Cook's injury is a little bit more serious than what we thought, then why not give him a chance? Because he seems like he's got the type of builds that Alexander might like. You know, he's a bit of a bigger sort of striker, but he's decent with his feet as well. And obviously, he's scored a lot of goals in the academy. So let's move on then to our third box of today's video. I've gone with the yellow box at Fort Daniel Ugoke. I feel like for the first 60 minutes or so when he was playing in central midfield, he had a pretty decent game. You know, had some nice touches, some nice passes, looked composed on the ball. Did unfortunately give away the free kick, which led to the corner that they scored from, which was disappointing. Obviously got booked for that. But I thought he had a pretty decent game overall in central midfield. Obviously partnered in there with Smallwood and Poynton, but at times it was much more as Smallwood and Ugoke holding, with Poynton pushed on a little bit further forward. And I just feel like we didn't really get the balance right. Obviously we know that Alexander brought Tompkinson in for Jamie Walker because of Grimsby have got a long throw. Don't really understand the thinking behind dropping one of your best players for a centre-half just because they can throw the ball into the box, which pretty much most teams can do. You know, I don't really think it would have made that much difference, but with obviously Tompkinson coming into the side, it meant Ugoke had to go in the midfield, and we did lose a little bit of creativity in there. And while Ugoke, he's not bad in central midfield, I just don't think he offers enough going forward in that role. I think he's much better out wide and getting balls into the box. When he moved into the back three, when Tompkinson got subbed off, I thought he looked quite poor. There were a number of occasions, I remember 2 or 3 times where he played a really, really silly stray pass, and then Platt and Kelly and even Sam Walker at times are turning around and going, you know, what on earth are you doing? I remember one occasion where he just passed the ball straight to the Grimsby forward, and Platt turned around and he absolutely screamed at him because it was the most stupid pass you'll ever see. And that's the problem with Oyegoke. He can have a decent game in one position, but then as soon as you move him to another position, he kind of seems to lose all brain cells and not really know what he's doing. And I must admit, I was quite disappointed with Oyegoke when he went into centre half. So I guess it kind of balanced itself out. Central midfield, I thought he was good. Centre half, I thought he was pretty poor. Doesn't really offer much going forward in central midfield. And when you've already got Smallwood in there, who's not offering much going forward, while he's very good at possession, doesn't really offer you much. I just feel like Oyegoke was kind of not necessarily in the way, but we needed someone with that creativity in central midfield, and I don't understand why Walker wasn't given that chance. I don't really get it, but I'll go with the yellow box for Daniel Oyegoke.
Yeah, he was okay. He composed on the ball. I like his tenacity in midfield. I think that's the only reason why he gets put there by a few managers and his composure. But like I say, did drop a bit when he went in centre back. Obviously, give away the free kick. But he's all right, I think. But like I say, on the ball, I think in midfield we were limited because when the ball went into him and Smallwood, they're both very like-minded players. When they've got the ball, they want to play it sideways and backwards. I mean, Oyegoke was like a broken steering wheel. You know, it just kept circling round, and it kept the kind that was going left all the time or right, and you know, it never went forward. And that, you know, I like players who retain possession. But at the end of the day, you have got to look forward at some point, otherwise you're playing rugby. And, you know, he didn't do that enough. But yeah, I thought he's improved recently. Maybe that's because of his shoulder injury. I think, you know, we can be a bit harsh on that because Jimmy Walker comes back and we give him time, or Oyegoke comes back and it's, right, you should be starting now and you should be playing 7 out of 10s. So recently he's improved a bit, but could we have played Wadsworth there, who's, you know, going to be here next season and year on year, whereas Oyegoke is just going to be at Brentford's B team next season. So I feel like that's something we could be looking at doing more.
Yeah, I think the loan plays is a very interesting one because we obviously know now we've got absolutely no chance of making it into the playoffs. We're not going to get relegated. These final few games of the season are basically glorified friendlies, really. It's a bit like the Nations League when England playing the loan players. You just don't really understand when they're potentially blocking the development pathway for some of our own players. You look at Tyreek Wright getting on the bench over someone like Adam Wilson, who once again not even involved in the matchday squad. Like you say there, Noah Wadsworth not given an opportunity for Daniel Oyegoke. Tompkinson I can understand slightly because he's proven under Alexander that he's a very, very good centre-half at this level. And we're also lacking options in there. We obviously Stubbs and Ash Taylor, both currently unavailable. I guess for 50% of them members, you'd probably say thankfully. So I don't mind Tompkinson playing, but for the likes of Oyegoke, the likes of Tyreek Wright, it just seems like a little bit of a waste unless we're potentially looking at making them move. We're potentially looking at making moves for them to try and get them here permanently next season. I'm not really too sure. But we'll move on then to our fourth box of today's video. This one might be slightly controversial, but I've gone with a green box for Richie Smallwood. I mentioned it in yesterday's match reaction. I seem to be one of the very few people who like Smallwood, and I feel like I'm one of the very few people who actually understand what his role is in this team. Now, obviously, we'll start out with the penalty. No Andy Cook on the that's not English. No Andy Cook on the pitch, no Tyler Smith on the pitch as well. You need someone to step up for a last-minute penalty. Who better than your captain to handle that pressure? And I thought it was a really, really good penalty. I think even if the keeper stays down the middle, he's probably going to struggle to save that because he proper blasts it straight into the roof of the net. It's a really, really good penalty from Smallwood, and I was surprised by the referee allowed them to make a substitution. I feel like if they were going to make a sub, that should have been done after the penalty. I've never really seen that done before because it kind of delayed and added more pressure to Smallwood, who probably knows that a certain section of our fan base don't particularly like him and will criticise him at every opportunity. And I understand that, you know, he doesn't get 10 goals and 10 assists every season, but I don't think that's his role in the team. He's in there to win the ball back and give it to the better players. He's in there to break up the play and get it to the players who can create chances and score goals. It's not really Smallwood's game. Last season, obviously, he scored a couple of goals, get a couple of assists in there. And I know his set pieces at times can be quite frustrating, and I completely do understand that because especially last season, I was massively disappointed with his set pieces, especially when we do that stupid routine where normally Gilead will pass the ball to Smallwood and he'd try and angle across into the box and he'd always overhit it every single time. This season, I don't think his set pieces have been too bad. Sometimes his corners are a little bit underhit, but I feel like he's not been taking them as often this season as what he was last campaign. And I've seen some people in the comments saying they don't like Smallwood because he gives the ball away quite a lot, but then at the same time complain that he don't get enough goal contributions. Like, Like at League 2 level, he's not going to have 100% passing accuracy and also get 10 assists a season. Like that's simply not realistic. So for me personally, I thought Smallwood had a really good game, stepped up in a pressure penalty when you need your captain the most, but he had a really good game out of possession, not too bad in possession as well. And like every player, he's going to make mistakes and he's going to give the ball away every now and again, but I personally felt like he had a decent game. I'm sure the comments will disagree, but I'm going with the green box for our captain.
Well, all I'm going to say is I don't pick the boxes, so don't shoot the co-host, because I wasn't a fan of Smallwood yesterday. But he's Marmite, you know. You love him or you hate him. I don't mind him, but I thought yesterday he looked a bit off the pace. He was jogging around a lot, shouting and moaning and waving his arms around. You could say that's Lydon, and I want someone to do that, but I didn't think his performances recently have matched him being able to do that. He was giving the ball away countless times, hoofing it into the sky, which again, it's probably an instruction from Graham, but as a captain, you know, just take this thing out of the game, you know, play. He does play simple passes, which frustrates some, but it don't me. But what frustrated me was a bit of rash thinking sometimes, where he just aimlessly punt it back up into the sky and it ends up going back towards our own goal. But yeah, I think a lot of fans have recently been annoyed at his demeanour and the frustrating actions he's doing that can wind a fan up by waving and not matching the performances that you're telling your teammates to be doing instead of rallying around them. But yeah, I just feel like that's the part of the game that a lot of people don't like, as I've said for the third time.
Yeah, I mean, I take your point for it, and I guess that's the good thing about these videos. For the large part, I think we do agree on a lot of things, and when we do disagree, I think it kind of makes for better content, and it allows for us to have a bit more of a debate. And I guess every captain is different. You know, you look at Harry Kane, someone who leads by example. You look at all the different types that you've got. You know, you've got your leaders by example and their performance on the pitch, your motivators, your sort of happy clapper sort of captains where everything's really positive and all that sort of stuff. And I guess for some people, Smallwood's just not really their type of captain. But we'll move on then to our penultimate box of today's video. I've gone with a yellow box for Callum Kavanagh. I thought on the whole had an okay-ish game, you know, considering the style of football we were playing. A lot of hoofball. I thought Kavanagh did really well against some of their centre-halves to win a lot of flick-ons, and I thought his link-up play for the large part was really good. Shouldn't have had an assist as well. He's a brilliant ball in for Tyler Smith's header, and I feel like if that's Andy Cook inside there, that ball, he's going into the top corner 99 times out of 100. It was a beautiful ball in, and it's a shame that we don't really create chances like that when Cook's on there. Maybe the Grimsby defenders just thought, you know what, it's Tyler Smith, we probably don't really need to mark him, we don't need to worry about him. And if that's Cook in that position, he's probably got three players around him. Two of them are holding his legs, one's holding his waist, and you know, you've even got the official probably coming in and trying to karate kick him, because that's normally what happens when Andy Cook is inside the penalty area or the ball's anywhere near him. And Kavanagh, I thought, did have some nice link-up play. Like I say, should have had an assist, created a couple of decent chances, and I think from what I've seen enough of Kavanagh so far, I think he looks better as a striker in like a double partnership rather than as a left-sided player cutting in as part of a front three. I certainly think he looks better as a striker. Like I say, creates chances, scores goals. Certainly looks a good player for the future. I think I'm happy with the signing now. He's had more than enough time to get his feet under the door. And at the time, a lot of people probably very sceptical of the signing because of his goal record. But since he's come in, I don't think he has been too bad. Obviously, he's a young player, so he is going to have bad games, and he has had bad games at times. But I think for the large part, he's been better than what we probably expected. He's probably exceeded a lot of expectations. I don't think they were particularly high when we brought him in, but I think he has done that. Obviously, we've got him for another 2 seasons after this one as well, and I think on the whole, had a pretty positive game. If he gets an assist, maybe it's a green box. Potentially yellow's a little bit harsh for him, but I have gone with a yellow in the end for Callum Kavanagh.
He's one of the only gent signings that's coming off like a decent bit of business. The young lad's come in and got a few goal contributions. He's shows the passion and he relates to the fans. He's got a bit of that energy that you want. It's just that bit of consistency that he's lacking, but I think that comes from finding his way in the team, and that's something that he obviously struggled with at the midway part in his career so far. And recently, like you say, playing as that sort of second striker, when he's more central in whichever way he plays, he's more in the game, and I think it suits him a lot more. It'd probably be a better striking option than Tyler Smith as well if he don't feel like he can trust Edmondson for Kavanagh up there, because like I say, he's got a good leap on him. He can hold the ball up. He's a good option in behind. I really like him, from what I've seen from him so far. I think technically there's something missing. I don't think he's quite right technically. I don't know what that is. Sometimes his first touch ain't quite right. His passing can be a bit off. But apart from that, he's got all the right attributes for me that resembles of a Bradford City character. And we ain't got that right all too often, if often at all.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Stephen Gent there. We're going to speak about the potential appointment of David Sharp as well at the end of today's video. And yeah, I think Gent, for once, to sign someone from Middlesbrough, has got a Middlesbrough connection, who looks like he could actually work out as a pretty decent signing for the football club. But we'll move on then to our final box of today's video. It's a red box for Graham Alexander. He just got it completely wrong. I mean, the biggest thing to take away, I listened to his post-match interview, and dropping one of your best players in Jamie Walker because Grimsby have got a long throw. I mean, that is one of the most defensive things you can do. And we were told by Graham Alexander and Ryan Sparks that we were going to play attacking football. And I mentioned it, I can't remember when it was, but I mentioned it in one of the videos recently saying, yes, you've got to worry about the opposition, but you've got to focus on yourself a lot more. And we worried too much about a team who were fourth from bottom having a long throw to then not play one of our better players in Jamie Walker, who had a really, really good end to the game against Tranmere Rovers. And I know he's just come back from injury and we don't want to burn him out potentially, but I just didn't understand the thinking behind that. And potentially, if you're going to bring Tompkinson back in, then you go with another option in central midfield, someone who might be a little bit more combative, but having Smallwood and Oyegoke in the midfield, along with the back five, it was just far too defensive, and we can't really be surprised by the fact we didn't really create many chances. You know, I wouldn't say we get lucky with the penalty. I think it's an absolute stonewall penalty, and I've seen some Grimsby fans saying that they don't understand why, but Halliday's clearly pulled to the floor. Hume gets wrong side, and it's a penalty and it's a red card because there's absolutely no intent to play the ball. It's, you know, clear denial of a goal scoring opportunity. But Alexander's tactics, again, so frustrating. Hoofball up to little Tyler Smith, and Kavanagh works really hard, and so does Smith. They both work hard, but we didn't have enough creative players in there to play the free-flowing attacking football like what we did against Tranmere. And some of the substitutions as well, really questionable. How did Smith last 75, 80 minutes like what he did? I'm not really too sure. Why did it take so long to get Walker on the pitch? We could see after the first 45 minutes that regardless of Grimsby's long throw, we weren't creating enough. And then when Walker comes on and Tompkinson comes off, does suddenly Grimsby not have the long throw after an hour, 65 minutes? Like, it just didn't really make sense to me. We've got to stop worrying too much about the opposition and what their threats are and focus more on trying to outscore them. If they get a goal from a long throw, that's fine. But if we go and score 2 or 3 by having Walker in the team over Oyegoke, that is what I would rather see. And I feel like some of these decisions are baffling. Should he get the summer? I mean, yes, I guess he's the only real option because Alexander has shown at times he can be streaky. If we get the right players in, could he be the man potentially? I think we've at times had a good defensive record under Alexander, but then at the same time, we've had a really, really poor defensive record under Alexander. We're really, really streaky. We either seem to play really well for a couple of games or really bad for a couple of games. There don't really seem to be an in-between. We're never really like win, loss, draw, win, loss. It always seems to be like win, and then loss. Like there's no real in between with Graham Alexander, and I hope that's sorted for next season. Hope we can be a little bit more consistent. But yesterday, team selection, tactics, subs, already baffling once again from Alexander. It's not the first time we've said that, so he gets another red box from me. So frustrating to be going away from home against fourth from bottom and play as poorly as what we did, create as little as what we did. I think the manager has certainly got to take some self-reflection and blame for that. So yeah, he gets a red box from me.
I've got another question for you, Sam. So wait a second before you get comfortable. And for you in the comments as well, let me know your thoughts on this as well. Start, bench, sell, Stuart McCall, the whole package, Mark Hughes and Graham Alexander.
As in based on manager?
Yeah.
Based on manager. If I could pick one of them, that is a very, very tricky. I would probably, I don't really remember McCall's first spell. I'd like to point that in. You know, obviously his second spell was very good. His third spell was very bad and didn't end particularly great, obviously with it being COVID and all that sort of stuff. Mark Hughes started out great, but by the end of it, I was so frustrated with him. And Alexander at the moment, we're just so streaky and inconsistent. Like, they're all kind of on the same level. I'll probably, for, you know, nostalgia reasons, probably start McCall or have McCall as my main manager. As my backup, I would probably go Alexander or bench him. And then as my sell or, you know, have no accountability for, I'd probably go Mark Hughes, because come the end of his tenure, his football was horrible and he was just far too, is placid the right word on the sideline? I'm not really too sure, but I'd probably go McCall number 1, Alexander number 2, and Mark Hughes number 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough one because, like you say, they're all at a similar level for what they've done. But yeah, in terms of entertainment, I think Stuart McCall probably tips that. But Alexander at the minute's just simply boring. I mean, I nearly fell asleep watching it yesterday, and that's not right. You know, I'd rather watch Daniel O'Donnell, and that's saying something. I mean, that man could literally bore you to death. If you know, you know, and if you do, then I feel sorry for you because you've had a tough sort of an upbringing if you've had Daniel O'Donnell on in the background. But yeah, if you're playing deep, you've got to have an out ball and hoofing it to Tal Smith into an out ball. So if you've got three tiny lads up front, then you've got to play quick football to them and try and use the pace in behind, not just hoof it straight to him. So then that leads to your tactical ineptness, if that makes sense. And that's what some of it Graham Alexander has had when it's sort of roof ball managers and it's direct, then when it's winning, it looks great. When you're losing, you know, you see it gets exposed and it looks awful and it's turgid. And you definitely saw that yesterday. Obviously, a lot of fans will have been annoyed. We've already mentioned it, bringing Pointing off. It's something that gets the fans on side. And when you bring someone off like that, it's going to have a big negative on them. And I'm just questioning more and more. But so it is quite hard to defend him. But there's no point sacking manager unless you have a structure in place for me, and hopefully that's something that we could be coming closer to having.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned it briefly there. It was reported this morning. Well, there's been a couple of rumours recently, but it was first reported by a proper concrete journalist in Peter O'Rourke at 2:53 p.m. on the 2nd of April. By the time this video comes out, it'll probably be the third very early hours. We are recording this very late, so apologies for the late upload. But he tweeted and done an article basically saying, understand Bradford City are set to appoint former Mansfield and Wigan chief David Sharp as their new head of recruitment. Now, I'm just trying to quickly find it here, but I'm pretty sure Simon Parker has done an article himself saying interesting link for new role at Bradford City, and David Sharp and Ryan Sparks know each other very well, but it won't be as head of recruitment as he is obviously poised for a new Valley Parade role according to this report. If it's not the head of recruitment, obviously it means Stephen Gent will probably be staying along. It seems likely like it'll be a director of football. Some people saying head of football. It seems like a pretty similar job, just with a different name. And I do think it'd be a really good appointment. I'm going to do a full video about it when it does get officially announced, but I do think it would be a good appointment. He did a really good job at Mansfield. You look at some of the players they'd recruited there recently for the price. You look at Alfie Kilgore, Davies Keeler Dunn, them sort of players that came in with some really, really good signings, and for quite a cheap price as well, they managed to get them for. I think they got 4 or 5 players of a similar ilk around that sort of age range who had proven at this level for, I think it was less than £100,000. Like, I think he did a really, really good job at Mansfield. Pretty sure he stepped down in the summer to focus on family business. To get him in and dealing with our football side would be massive for the football club. But then you look at what is Ryan Sparks then really contributing, because we've got very good people in our current commercial jobs, and I know he kind of oversees everything, but if Sharp is better than Sparks, then why would Sharp be below Ryan Sparks? Like, that wouldn't really make sense to me. But I do think this would be a really, really good appointment for the football club, and they deserve a lot of credit for it if it does manage to get over the line. Obviously, it was with Wigan as well. I think their fans for the large part seem to like him, and obviously quite young. They're similar sort of age. I'm pretty sure they're quite good friends as well. So I do think it would be a really good appointment for the football club, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pragmatically excited about it because, one, it's a big if it happens, but two, it's got a really good pedigree. He's not only got, you know, clubs who have, I mean, Wigan obviously after he left, they went into administration, but that had not to do with him. He put a good structure in place, and whoever followed it, you know, some owners who were numpties and sort of took that down another path, but did really well there with the footballing structure, with the players he brought in and everything like that, and the negotiating. A lot of, you know, the Wigan and Mansfield fans say he's really good at negotiating deals, something we're not. You know, we don't do our due diligence with negotiating our players, giving 3-year contracts to Tyler Smith, and bringing in your Curtis Guffers and your Theo Robinsons. But it's exciting. But we've got Stephen Rupp and Ryan Sparks who are still in the football club. Like I say, if he was the CEO, I'd be much more excited, because I feel like that's his role. I feel like that's what he should be in the role with. But if he's working alongside Stephen Gent, you know, he can advise him, and there's potential there that you can get excited about. And it would be going into the right step, but it's only a step into the right direction, and it's nothing complete, it's nothing concrete. But but it probably would put it dead in the water the links with Paul Jewell, which a lot of fans have been sort of Marmite again with. You know, it's like, oh, it's great we're bringing back a club legend. He'll get what it takes to help Alexander and be in that sort of a role. But then they've got other fans saying it's a cheap option, it's lazy and stuff. But yeah, I'm cautiously quite optimistic about the David Sharp links.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think it would be a really, really good appointment for the football club. Does it change much? I think it does slightly, because it's a fresh pair of hands who we've not had at the football club before. You know, the amount of times where we've gone back and appointed people who have previously worked for the football club just because they get it. I feel like sometimes you need to go fresh and get new ideas in, or you're just going to end up going round and round in circles just because they were good 10, 15 years ago. Like, I don't really know Paul Jewell all too much. It was all way before my time, but I know that for the large part, he's well respected by the Bradford City fans. But David Sharp is an appointment that would massively, I wouldn't say get me back on side, but it would certainly make me a little bit more excited going into next season, excited about the recruitment. You'd like to think with David Sharp's track record, we wouldn't then be signing some of these players who are very unproven on long-term contracts just because of their age, or because of no real reason. We're just deciding to give them 3-year contracts because it looks cool and fancy. And Ryan Sparks has been someone who has been very happy with giving out long-term contracts to people who haven't really proved it. You look at Graham Alexander getting that 2.5-year deal, just over a 2.5-year deal for someone who massively failed at MK Dons, hasn't really done much for a number of years. Like, I mentioned it in my video, and I've said this a few times now. When we appoint Alexander, we all know he's not going to see that time out, so why bother doing it? And I don't know if the length of contract affects the payout for them. I don't really know how it works. Obviously, I don't have the contracts in front of me, but I feel like with Sharp coming in, that would then reduce the likeliness of giving out long-term contracts to not only managers but players who don't really deserve it. So we'll leave it there then for today's video. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Again, apologies about the late upload, but we'll be back next week at normal time. Thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for us. If you could try and 80 likes on today's video, that'd massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're now on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below on our 6 talking points from today's video. That being Bobby Poynton, Tyler Smith, Daniel Ugoke, Richie Smallwood, Callum Kavanagh and Graham Alexander. Also, let me know down below your thoughts on the potential of David Sharp coming on board as Bradford City's head of recruitment, director of football, head of football, whatever it is. But it sounds very likely that he will be joining the football club, which in my opinion would be massive news for us. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one. Peace.